Welcome, regular Bitchin' Boutique listeners and new folks, to our All the Horror episode for 2020. This week, Pitney and I are visited by our friend Lex Dracos from the Geeky, and the three of us spent a fun afternoon talking about depictions of transgender characters in horror. In addition to a fascinating trans character from American Horror Story Hotel, we discuss the classic 80s slasher Sleepaway Camp and delve into some complex issues of bodily autonomy in the recent family horror drama Hereditary. It's supersized and super awesome, and we think you'll really enjoy it. Get comfy, y'all. Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique!
We may be awful, but we're right!
Welcome to our All the Horror episode for 2020!
Yay! Woo!
Before I introduce our special guest, I want to remind our regular listeners that they need to be sure to check out the hashtag #AllTheHorror. And those of you who have found us through the hashtag #AllTheHorror, hello. We don't normally do things this formally. You'll enjoy us. Okay, so but everybody needs to know that if you buy official All the Horror t-shirts, there are 4 really, really badass new designs this year. All the money raised from those t-shirts goes to a charity called Scares That Care, which is this cool group that supports families in need, and there will be links aplenty in the show notes. So now, joining us this week is Dr. Lex Dracos, calling in from lovely Canterbury, England. And up until quite recently, Lex hosted a podcast called The Geekly, and it's all out there where you can listen to it, and I recommend it. But I'm going to let him introduce himself to you all.
Hello. Okay, so yeah, this is, I hate introducing myself.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Because, I have to write a bio for work, and I'm just thinking, fuck, how? Never mind. Okay.
I'm the same way. It's fine.
Okay. So basically, I did the Geekly, which was, kind of a side thing that I was into. I'm really not kind of, the comic book thing. I'm a doctor of monsters, so this horror show is actually really up my alley, but I haven't done anything with monsters for 2 years, so this is super exciting, and it's about trans people in horror, so yeah, just keeps getting better.
That's right. It could not be a more interesting topic, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything? Okay. So shall we then?
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
let's do this.
Okay.
Okay. So today, this episode, we are talking about depictions of trans characters in horror, and you guys are probably thinking, and you would be totally right, that there isn't a lot out there for us to choose from. And as in most media, the representation of trans characters is pretty sketchy and often not particularly positive.
Mm-hmm.
But we have found some good examples that we want to discuss, and we definitely have a lot to say about them.
Yeah, I think, it's weird, because for a genre which honors the other, like horror does, I mean, it's all about things that exist on the margins. When trans people do show up, and it's usually trans femme people who are more transvestite than transgender. I mean, if you want to think like Buffalo Bill or Norman Bates or kind of pretty much all of them. Yeah. It's a weird combination that trans people don't feature more prominently in horror or more positively in horror. But yeah, we've picked 3 narratives that are very interesting, very unique in their handling of aspects of trans being, and weirdly, because I've been thinking about, obviously, all of them very much for the past month or so that we've been putting this together, and my opinions on them have changed so much. Even what I was thinking yesterday to what I was thinking today was anyway, so yeah, it's going to be really interesting to just dive into this and talk it all out.
Oh, yeah. I totally get that. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I go, no, wait. It's weird. It's especially for things as simple as some of the things that we're talking about. You wouldn't think they'd be so
me too.
complicated.
Like, I was writing notes up last night, and I was like, wait, but I want to say this, and wait, I'm realizing that this is this. It's very interesting, but we'll get into it later. So, just as a warning for, like, I am not somebody that's ever cared about spoilers.
Yeah.
There's all these things of like, oh, it's a spoiler warning, blah, 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 blah. I know that some people do, but I'm a person that will read, like, the last 5 pages of a book to see if I want to read the book. So, but for you people that care about spoilers, we're going to be talking about Sleepaway Camp, American Horror Story Hotel, and Hereditary. I'm assuming that everybody listening to this has probably watched all that stuff. Or
at least
probably
a couple of them.
knows about it enough to know, because I'm assuming horror fans are going to be listening to all the horror. But if you care about spoilers, be aware that there's a lot of spoilers in this, which will basically ruin the whole experience for you if you don't know the stories and if you care.
Because we're totally telling the story. Yeah.
So with that being said, we are going to start with the classic Sleepaway Camp. And Amelia, take it away.
Woohoo! All right, Sleepaway Camp. Now, on its surface, Sleepaway Camp is your sort of typical 80s slasher. You got kids going off to camp, and people are getting killed one by one. But this one, it is kind of special. It has, let's say, an unexpectedly queer sensibility about it. Especially for the 80s. Man! And I will say this. If you are one of those snobs who prides yourself on your knowledge of queer cinema, but you have never seen Sleepaway Camp, well, have a seat, Mary. Because you need to learn a few things. So, basic plot, as quickly as possible, filled with spoilers, because we really got to get to the meat of this story very quickly. We start off with a boating accident on a lake. A speedboat goes out of control and plows into a dad and his 2 kids. I think the kids are twins. I'm not 100% sure about that. The dad is killed and one of the kids is killed. And we assume that it's the boy who is killed, because we spend the rest of the movie following this girl named Angela around. And she's at this summer camp that she's gone to with her cousin, and she is weird and quiet and stares at everybody with her big buggy eyes, and suddenly people are dying in just amazingly gruesome ways. And of course it's Angela killing them, because right before they die, they were just mean to Angela. So it's pretty clear. But then...
Yeah, they did not do a good job of keeping any sort of suspense up with that.
Right, exactly. Like, they don't let us see her doing it, but at the same time, it's pretty fucking obvious.
Yeah.
They did make, like, kind of a sort of very weak attempt to be like, oh, it could be Ricky, her cousin, who's, like, very protective of her, but, I mean, did anybody really think it was Ricky at any point, aside from that one guy?
Oh, God,
like,
no.
Please,
oh, God,
yeah,
no.
Oh, my God. But one of the things that's really fascinating about this movie is that throughout it, we gradually are given this backstory about Angela that's sort of interspersed throughout, and, like, her dad was gay, and the guy driving the boat was his lover, and she was raised by her Aunt Martha, who always wanted a little girl. So even though the kid, here comes the spoilers, even though the kid who survived the accident was the brother, she dressed little Peter as a girl and called him Angela, and I think that the whole point of this movie is to say that if you force a gender identity onto a child, they are going to grow up to murder people. I don't think that's what they intended, but there it is. I really do think that that's what the movie is ultimately saying, which is not something you'd expect. So, that's the basic plot.
Yeah.
But the reveal of that truth is very interesting. The fabulous thing of it
is, though, is like the aunt. Is it Martha?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Aunt Martha. Yes. She is so fabulously Stepford wife.
Like a drag queen being a Stepford wife.
Oh
My
God.
Yeah.
It is like not the original Stepford Wives, but the Bette Midler movie Stepford Wives, where it's so over the top. Oh my God.
Oh man.
Yeah, she is like a 50s vacuum commercial.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And as heinous and horrible as she is, Martha's kind of fabulous.
Oh, God. She needs her own series of films. I would do anything to see a whole Aunt Martha movie. But anyway.
Yes. I just had to throw that out there.
Let's the big reveal. I'm gonna let Pitney talk about the big reveal because boy is it a big reveal.
So the big reveal, which will surprise nobody, really, if they paid any attention, is that the killer is Angela. And oh my God, she's a boy!
Oh, look, that girl has a dick!
Because, you know, at the end, she's holding the severed head of her, like, kind of lover, but let's say kind of boyfriend, because they're teenagers, right?
Right.
And then she stands up, grimacing in horror and in trauma, and you see that she has a dick.
And she's inexplicably naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have to see
Well, remember, right before that, they were going down to the lake to go skinny dipping.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah, that is true.
So you're wondering, and you know, you're wondering, did she kill her boyfriend Paul? It's Paul, right? Paul.
I'm gonna go along with you on that. I don't remember.
No, it is Paul.
It is Paul. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay, edit that.
Well done.
Anyway. So the question that, you know, it never occurred to me until right now. Did she kill her boyfriend Paul because they went skinny dipping together and he freaked out that she had a penis?
That's true. We there is no explanation.
I never thought about that.
Was it just a part of the ennui and the angst of the whole movie?
He had to die.
Yeah.
That he had to die because of reasons that I will get into in a minute. You know.
See, like, I just presumed it was because, you know, he kissed the like mean girl, and so like she was taking revenge on him.
That's
but the like
true.
actual skinny dipping thing is kind of like, it didn't even occur to me that like he might have seen her naked and he probably would have been like, oh, what, like, freaked out.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially because of the era that it was filmed in, because if that would have happened now, I would think that most guys would be like, oh, well, I didn't know that. Well, let's check this out. I would think.
I mean, the experimental teenage boy, sure.
Yeah,
see
why
what
not?
that's like.
You know, and I know, and it's interesting, though, because, you know, like, 80s horror is so homophobic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, 80s everything was, but yeah.
I may be wrong, but I'm just going to say my opinion on something.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but this is a whole other discussion. But, you know, there's all this stuff now. Like, for example, I went to a whole panel with all the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all the gay context of that. Oh, we were just trying to be this and that and the other. And it's like, no, you weren't. You're sugarcoating it now that was a homophobic movie and that's what it was meant to be.
Right. Oh, yeah,
and
you totally were not setting out to...
don't try to intellectualize this shit now because that's what it was at the time.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it's not the time for that.
Yeah, because the first time I saw it, I didn't think that they were, look how accepting and open they're being. That was not my thought the first time I saw it.
You know, but that being said, I was like, I had no emotional reaction to, oh my God, she has a penis, which, you know, at the time that's what they were going for.
Absolutely.
And the audience was like, oh my God, look at that faggot.
Right.
Like, totally.
Right.
And I remember going to Rocky Horror in the 80s.
Oh, God.
And having stoner guys there screaming faggot at the screen. That is how homophobic the 80s were. So I really don't think that this movie was made to be intellectually the way that we're disseminating it now. But
right.
It does warrant intellectual dissemination because it's really, really interesting.
Because I don't think they were aware some of the things that they actually did. I think they meant the opposite of almost everything that really is in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with that.
And what was really interesting to me, it was like, okay, so the reveal scene is like, oh my God, she has a dick. Is that the line? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they say it. I just remember her face.
She's a boy.
Oh my God, she's a boy.
She's a boy. Yes.
Yeah, and and then the last scene is they focused on her face, and it's just like this anger and angst-ridden.
The weirdest pose. Everything about it is weird. Yeah.
It's probably the most disturbing part of the film is like the pose that the body's in, coupled with the expression on her face. What is that? Like,
and when you Google Sleepaway Camp, that picture of her face is what you're going to see, and you're going to go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. That's what stuck with me because
it's eerie.
It was crazed. It was angsty. It was painful. Again, I don't think any of this was meant. It was meant to be freaky, but we're reading into this now from our...
Right. Sure.
But to me, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, is that... Like, where is that coming from? And I think part of me thought, well, she was just rejected by her straight boyfriend who all of a sudden realized...
Right.
Yeah.
That... something was there that he didn't expect, right? But then I was starting to think of, like, Angela's whole life, which to me, like, puts it into a larger narrative of, like, the trans experience.
And a traumatic, forced trans experience.
And my perspective on that being, who knows if... Granted, okay, Angela, who's Peter, making out with a boy, that brings up the question, is Peter gay? Right. Is Angela a straight woman? But what's interesting is he's, like, forced into being Angela.
Right.
Against his will.
So it's like all this trauma and...
Yeah.
And it was like, to me, it was between an actual trans person or a straight boy being forced to be a woman and then reacting in that way.
Like with an abusive childhood.
I think the angst would be the same in that you're... forced into an identity that's not yours.
Right.
That's not authentic, and that fucks you up and makes you angry. It does not make you homicidal. But I understand.
But
I know what I'm saying.
Angela sure as fuck was.
I understand the pain and the angst of it, and Peter being forced to be Angela against his will. If he really is a straight boy, and he's forced to play this role, it's going to fuck him up. And I think that is probably the actual written narrative of the movie, regardless of what they say now.
Right.
But I think it really does resonate with the opposite of that, as a trans person being stuck in this life and being stuck by their parents, like, you're a girl or you're a boy. Right. And this anger, this well, fuck you, no, I'm not.
Stop telling me what I am.
It's gonna make that anger.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that's what I got out of that.
Yeah. I want to kind of add one thing about the shot itself, because I don't know. Well, there is something kind of weird. Felissa Rose, who played Angela, she to this day poses for pictures with fans making that face. And it's really unnerving.
Well, of course she does.
Because that's literally all she has. I mean, she's at a con, she's dressed real slutty because she's at a con, and then she's posing with people going, with her face, looking off to the side with her mouth open as wide as she can. And that face is so, well, like you were saying, I mean, it's like, there's so much in it, and it's so traumatic and so crazy to see, but one of the things that really makes it even that much worse is the way that, and I'm just trying to look at it from the point of view of the filmmaker, they want to give you enough time to make sure that every single person in that audience sees that dick.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
So they linger.
Oh my God.
And
yes.
Honestly, even though there are some proportion issues with superimposing her head in semi-darkness to make the scene a little more seamless, and the guy who's standing there either is wearing a wig or has long hair. All of a sudden, Angela has considerably long hair than she had 2 seconds ago. And it's curlier, but because it's not a boy, because there's no way they're getting a boy of the right age to stand there. It is a man.
They couldn't do that.
It is a man. It is a skinny man. It's probably the most of a slip of a man they could find, but he still has, his shoulders are too wide. So in order to de-emphasize that, her head is too big.
Oh, maybe it was the ugly old troll camp manager.
The sad thing about that, I looked that guy up, that was his last role ever. He had a wonderful long career, and that was Sleepaway Camp's the last thing he ever did. But the shot lasts for so long, and that makes it that much more uncomfortable, because once you've seen the dick, you don't really need to look at the dick anymore. So you look at her face, and her face freaks you the fuck out. And they will not let you stop looking at her face.
No, and then they've also got like these weird grunty animal noises and this like crazy orchestral music happening at the same time. So it's just this huge, I don't know, clusterfuck of weirdness coming at you, and you can't get away from it. And like you want to look away, but at the same time you're just like, what am I looking at? I don't understand. Like, because her head is like so oversized, and the body, and it's just. It's so long. It goes on for so long.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, and it's so like cacophonous. It totally is, just to be like, oh my God, look it. She was, a faggot. That's what I got from it.
Right.
Which is so 80s.
Yeah. But it's weird because, like, for a movie that's so badly acted and badly written, so there's really not any genuine emotion, really, as you're watching this movie, because you really don't give a shit about these people, but that you, all of a sudden, the viewer just has this swell of emotion they do not understand, because that final shot fucks with your head so bad.
I know that, what traumatized me about the movie most was it reminded me of going to Kids for Christ camp. Me being the Nelly little faggot that I've always been, and being so bullied, I had to sleep in the parking lot in a sleeping bag because nobody wanted me in their tent. That's what that movie reminded me of.
I've known you your whole fucking life. How did I not know that?
Yeah, but we diverged. We diverged. So let's go on. Lex, what is your feeling on all of this?
Yeah, okay, like, so my initial feeling about the film, well, one, I was, like, watching it, and it is the most boring film, like, ever I have seen, and, I mean, the last shot, as weird and disturbing as it is the most interesting thing that happens in the film.
But so the kills suck. Kills boring. Yes.
Yeah. So, like, I knew it was coming, and like the entire film, I was sitting there thinking, how are they going to do this like final shot? Because she's obviously like, what, like 13, 14? Like they're not going to have like a naked child there. Anyway, right. I didn't expect them to do what they did, or for it to look the way it did. But interestingly, okay, so Richard Hiltzik is the director and writer of Sleepaway Camp and the fourth film in the series. Apparently he was unaware of the two sequels in between and had nothing to do with them. He's a lawyer now in New Jersey, I believe, so if you're in New Jersey and need legal advice, like, there you go.
And if you're in New York and need you want to buy an apartment, the woman who played Aunt Martha could hook you up.
There you go. All of your needs taken care of in the tri-state area. Yeah, so, like, he insists, like, up and down, that he had no intention to put queer politics in either Sleepaway Camp movie, and he has no idea how they got there, and he's completely oblivious.
I intended to be 100% homophobic, goddammit.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, maybe in theory, I mean, it's possible that there could have been a person in the early 80s who was so unaware of societal events and people that subconsciously things just ended up in his film. But I still have questions. And I really kind of
questions.
So many questions.
God, yeah.
And I've really kind of, like, I've been resisting the urge, like, since I found out that he's just this lawyer, of, you know, contacting him in some way and just being like, can we talk about Sleepaway Camp, please? I think he might hang up on me, though, so I don't know. Anyway, so, like, I mean, just
God.
the combination of things that we have. All right, first there's Aunt Martha, who I didn't even know, like, I was fixated with her at the beginning, and, like, the absolute just dismissiveness that Ricky has for her. Like, his mom is obviously something. I don't know, but she's not normal.
She's not normal. Whatever,
and he's
whatever
just
normal
like,
is, she is not it.
Whatever, Mom. So yeah, like, I think kind of universally, nobody really knows what to make of Aunt Martha. There's, like, loads of stuff about Aunt Martha, like, who is this woman? Why is she like this? What were they trying to do here? And I think, like, almost everybody was just presumed at first that she was a drag queen, and... Totally.
Yeah,
that, too...
I was shocked to learn that she was not.
See, I never got that, which is weird.
That's so not like you.
Me.
Yes!
I did see her as campy Bette Midler in the Stepford Wives, but I never saw her as a drag queen. Anyway.
Oh my God! There was no way she was a cis woman. The first thing I thought was, why is there a drag queen in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, like,
weird. I never got that. Anyway, Lex, go on. I'm sorry.
Pretty much. No, I mean, like,
really.
It was actually kind of reassuring that, like, everybody else seemed to have this thing. Like, every article I read about it, like, in the first paragraph or two, was like, by the way, she was played by a cis woman. I was like, okay. But yeah, apparently that, too, the tie-in with the drag culture, was completely unintentional. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have Aunt Martha. Then we have that Aunt Martha decided to make Peter Angela because, well, she already had a boy, and you can't have two boys. No, you have to have one of each. Get the whole set.
Right. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, if you're a Stepford wife and you want to have the perfect family,
I suppose that is true. You know, that the ideal thing is, you know, a boy and a girl, and, you know, whatever. I guess you can decide what the 0.5 is going to be. So yeah, then we have, you know, the apparent kind of, like, trauma of Peter/Angela walking in on their dad and his boyfriend in bed when, I mean, they're basically just kind of cuddling for half a second. It actually looks very sweet, but
it's very romantic and sweet. But it's a very voyeuristic. The bed is, like, if I remember right, isn't the bed, like, rotating?
I think it is, and it's like a black background, and you know, it looks kind of like some sort of, like, performance theater. Yes. Weird thing.
They're just gazing into each other's eyes.
Yeah, just like, I mean, like, it could be the cover of a romance novel, really. Like, I mean, totally. a gay romance novel, obviously, but yeah. So, all right, you have these things, and I mean, I'm glossing over the fact that, like, Peter/Angela witnessed her brother and their brother. I'm so confused about pronouns. I don't know what to use for.
Oh no, I think there was a boy and a girl to begin with, and
the
brother died, but no.
But I mean, in terms of,
we thought
like,
the brother died, but the sister died. Right?
Yeah. No. Yeah, the sister died. and the father died, and like, you know, they were like what, 6, 7? They
were pretty little, yeah.
They were small, and so you go
Yeah.
through like this traumatic thing, and then your aunt says, "Okay, you're gonna be a girl now." Anyway, so yeah.
If you're living with me, you're gonna put on a dress.
So, all right, okay. Like, if just one of those things was in the film, you could maybe be like, sure, this guy didn't really mean to do what he did. It's just a coincidence, you know. But like, it's just there's so many layers of the queer coding in this film that I don't think that you could do it by accident. I mean, you know, there's the monkey and the typewriter thing, but they've proven that's not real. So yeah. So yeah, like I keep going back and forth about how I feel about this film. Like when we first talked, I was like, "Oh no, it's a horrible film. It's totally transphobic and
Right.
all that stuff." You know, the director was like, you know, I just made a slasher film because everybody was doing it, and I thought it would like be a quick way to make money, and you know,
And that was his way of being a little different, because that's a whole new thing.
well,
yeah.
you know, like I suppose in the early '80s there might be something titillating and taboo about the idea of gender transgression and like queer themes, but and like it wouldn't be the first time that people had like used capitalism to be like, oh yes, I'm going to use marginalized issues to make more money.
Of course.
But yeah, like I think so. Yes, the film is horrible, and it's dated, and it's so many things, so many things. But to like,
You know, I was gonna say though, but back then, none of these issues were
that's
issues.
true.
Not to the general
Faggots were
public,
faggots,
definitely. Yeah.
and trannies were freaks, and I mean that's what the consciousness
Right,
was back
absolutely.
then. And people are always trying to go back on that. These filmmakers always are trying to go back on that to deny that. And I
Yeah,
call
just
bullshit.
own that you made a really shitty movie.
I call
I think
bullshit.
his official position now is that the film is about bullying and what bullying can turn people into.
That's
I think there's
putting it.
yeah, that's very
If child abuse could be just summed up as bullying, sure.
No, it's not. The film is all about he thought that fucking bitch Meg was hot.
yeah.
Oh
Oh
god.
god.
And that she, you know, that's what the film
And
was about.
apparently
Give me a
she
break.
wants to fuck the old dude who
I know.
owns the camp. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is wrong
Of
with this?
all of the people, and that like weird random bodybuilder guy, she goes for the like dorky old guy in Argyle socks and a cigar. Like what is that?
Yeah, that is like
God.
straight male Mary Sue right
Oh,
there.
Lord. It's like they went to Central Casting and said, I'll take one of those, I'll take one of those. Interestingly, James Earl Jones's father is in this movie. And if you know that going in, you'll recognize him the second he talks, because he talks just like him and he kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
Oh, is he like the second?
Yes.
Yeah,
the old-
yeah,
the
yeah.
old
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
The guy who I guess works for the disgusting pedophile piece of shit who's the first one to die.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
he's weirdly okay with, you know, prepubescent girls being objectified sexually. Like, you know, oh yeah, it's just funny, it's all good-natured fun.
Oh,
That is
he's
a
just
different
silly.
podcast though. Like, talking about like the racial
Oh,
politics
yeah.
of this movie is a different thing entirely. But
Yeah, I mean, we're only talking about one aspect of how much it sucks. I mean, we could go into there's so much about this movie that's like, wow, really? Wow.
yeah,
And
I
then
like
the next scene, Jesus, oh god. Yeah, it's amazing.
every time I thought like they'd kind of hit the peak of like cringy problematic tropes, they did another one, and I was just like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I guess we're going for it now, aren't we?
I mean, well, we are building
Yeah.
to the ultimate transphobic, oh, look, she has a dick. So I guess if it was politically correct up to that moment, that wouldn't make sense either. So,
But the clothing and the clothing.
Like the short shorts on all of the guys, and like the midriff
Oh,
thing.
the
nut
short
huggers.
short and those ridiculous muscle t-shirts that barely went below the nipple.
oh god, yeah, what was the crop
So,
shirt
I mean,
thing?
I remember that was a thing back then, but oh my god, so ugly and stupid.
Oh my god, it really, yeah, if you want to know what the 80s really looked like, that movie is what the 80s really looked like. It wasn't all like, everyone didn't dress like Cyndi Lauper. The 80s looked like those kids.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I will say in passing that Meg that I hated so much, the horrible slutty bitch that lived that was in the dorm with Angela.
And I guess she was a counselor because she was older,
she was a counselor.
Oh, was she a counselor? Where she had like the with her big goddamn ponytail?
Oh
on the side
no,
of
the one with the side pony, that was Judy.
Yeah, that was
Meg
Judy.
Was the older
Judy
one
is who I'm talking about. Judy is who I'm talking about.
Judy rocked a side pony like nobody's business.
Yeah.
That side pony, my sister.
Yeah, one of my sisters, yeah, and Pitney knows which one. Yeah.
Anyway.
Alright. Next up, we are going to talk about American Horror Story Hotel. And we are going to focus on one truly divine character named Liz Taylor. And there is absolutely no way that I would be able to shove the whole plot of an entire season of a TV show into a few sentences, but I'm going to do my best to tell you what you need to know. So, there is this gorgeous Art Deco hotel. Oh my god, the sets. The sets! Oh! It's called the Hotel Cortez. It's in Los Angeles, and this place is basically cursed because it was built by this millionaire in the 20s who wanted a murder palace with like secret places to stash bodies and shit because he really liked to torture and kill people. So it's mostly populated by like junkies and vampires and serial killers and really creepy children and so much murder. And the fun part about this hotel is if you die there, you will be a ghost there for eternity, which basically means that place is filled with ghosts. Mm-hmm. And as you go along, some characters are ghosts, some are not, but you don't necessarily know, things get weirder as things go, but because it's a weird place filled with weird happenings, it tends to attract people who, just kind of want to be accepted for who they are, and enter Liz Taylor, who is sort of essentially reborn there, and so she decides to remain. And she lives out her years there. She works at the reception desk, she's the bartender, she generally just ups the glamour factor of the place, which was already pretty high because Lady Gaga plays the Countess, who's sort of this fashionista woman who owns the place, and God, she's a bitch like 90% of the time. Mm-hmm. And then there's some shit about a detective, but who gives a shit because Liz Taylor is really the only thing that matters. So, Pitney, do you want to talk about the fabulous Liz?
Oh, God. Okay, well, let's just start aesthetically because, we are superficial beings. We normally notice things aesthetically. The thing that I loved so much about meeting Liz for the first time. Because you meet her for the first time, you don't know any of her backstory, and she was like this fully actualized, comfortable, fabulous woman.
Yeah.
And old, bald, flat-chested, but 100% absolutely a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
She does not read like a man in drag.
Right.
She reads like a woman because that is what she is.
Right.
And I thought that was so wonderful and so refreshing.
Right.
Because it was like, oh, look at somebody that has transitioned. I mean, I'm talking male to female,
and, male to female and transitioned socially, basically. Because,
yeah. And it's like, oh, they're not dependent on wigs. They're not wearing stupid falsies. They're not dressing like they're a prostitute from 1979. Because for whatever tragic reason, so many of the trans people that I've known in real life, that's the first phase they go through.
Right, that's where they start. Like, that's the ideal woman to them.
Like,
right.
Oh, this isn't me. This isn't what it means to be a woman. This is just like this thing. And
this is me being a drag queen,
now
basically.
I can grow and I can become who I really am.
Right.
And you meet Liz, and that is what she is. She's just this...
You love her the second you see her.
Yeah.
Bald, flat-chested...
And like 6.5 feet tall.
woman. And the only reason I focus on that is because it's not traditionally things that are female. But there's no doubt that this is a woman.
Right.
Yep.
Because she doesn't read as like, oh, look at that bitchy drag queen.
Or some guy on Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought that was really, really cool. And granted, this is something made in a whole different era from the artistic work that we were just talking about. So the sensibilities are going to be different.
Right.
But to me, like, the whole character of Liz was like a message of hope and a message of acceptance.
Oh, yeah.
And a message of empowerment for anybody, whoever you may be.
Yeah.
You know?
Whoever you are, be that. Yeah, that's basically what she is.
You know, and as we do delve into, you know, her backstory, you know, you realize, you know, she's gone through what we've all gone through, or all of us, you know, non-cis people have gone through.
Yeah.
You know, where, like, you don't know where you fit in. How is your family reacting? I mean, even me, the big old fucking queen that I am, who came out at, like, 17, even I pretended to have girlfriends in high school.
And I will say that because I met him when he was 16, yes, he did.
Yeah, and, you know, because, and you know, Liz is much older than all of us.
I think.
And the product of an earlier time where she got married, she had kids as a man, and lived this whole life of like, oh my God.
Just miserable.
That's not to negate the love of her children, because that's totally there, the love of her son.
Right.
Yeah.
And the respect for her wife. But there was also like this, oh my God.
Yeah.
What have I done? Because she lived in an era where it wasn't possible for her to easily live. And it was...
Aww. I get that way about her, too.
Yeah.
Oh, I love her so much.
Because, I mean, I'm not saying that my journey has been as difficult as
Liz's would have been.
A person coming out as trans.
Right.
But she was able to finally find herself amongst all of this, and all of a sudden she just like bloomed and was so authentic. And I don't know necessarily how realistic the apparent quickness of that journey was.
I think just that place has a lot of magic in it, and that made it,
but I think that it was very hopeful and very inspirational. And you know, because all of a sudden, you know, she went from this, oh my God, what the fuck is going on, and blah, blah, blah. And we don't see what she went through in the years right after.
We see, we see like just enough,
going through the process of, you know, the sorrow of leaving her son and leaving her wife and, you know, all of this stuff. But you get the sense that the actualization was pretty much there.
Right.
And to me, that was a very, very hopeful, positive thing.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I will say that I didn't like about the whole thing, because it had nothing to do with Liz, is, you know, I don't like Lady Gaga.
I know you don't. And at that time, when that originally aired, I didn't like her either, but I've softened on her since then.
Whereas I think the Countess is kind of fabulous, she's just really a horrible bitch.
She really is.
She is.
But she was very sweet to help Liz in that moment, and that was her best moment.
I thought it was pretty... Okay, so I had two feelings on, when she, when she decided she was going to dress up in the hotel room because that's the only time she feels herself. And then her asshole, khaki-wearing co-workers would come out and saw her in the hall making fun of her. And then the Countess, a.k.a. Lady Gaga, comes out and slits their fucking throats for making fun of Liz. I thought that was fabulous.
That's so justified.
But, one, I thought it was just sort of Lady Gaga doing her whole pro-gay and I'm better than everybody else thing, and she probably wrote that into the script because she wanted to be badass Lady Gaga. Maybe not.
Maybe, I don't know.
But the other thing that I was struck about that I was like, well, was Liz empowered because this woman did this and allowed and gave her that power? Or was or would I like to think of it as, with my hate of Gaga and her ego aside,
okay,
that was such an extreme act, but for such a person that had felt so extremely unaccepted in her authenticity,
right.
I was wondering if that extreme act made Liz feel like, oh my God, there really is love and acceptance,
right.
and
it was definitely an act of love,
for me in this world as myself, because look at what this person just did.
And she met me 10 minutes ago.
Me.
Right,
and
right.
how empowering is that?
It was really amazing.
So I was struck by that. And Lex, what is your feelings on that?
So many feelings.
I have so many feelings.
My Lady Gaga cattiness aside, I got to the theme of what I was trying to talk about afterwards.
It does color the view of a scene.
It does a bit. I mean, going back to that moment, I think probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire season is when Liz is walking down the hallway to get ice for the first time, and she starts off so kind of self-conscious and meek, and she's holding the bucket in two hands and she's glancing around. She comes to the housekeeper, who just kind of like glances at her and then goes back to her work, and then after that, right. Liz is kind of like, it's okay, like nobody cares. And I mean,
and I did love that too. And I remember I noticed that.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, girl, I hope you realize that housekeeper just saw you and does not give a fuck.
Yeah.
And
I think, like, every trans person has that first moment when they go out in public as themselves, usually as a very imperfect version of themselves, because they're just starting out, they're just figuring things out. Right. And to not be clocked as trans, or even if you are clocked as trans and whoever you're interacting with still treats you as your identified gender, there is this moment of like liberation and freedom of like, okay, and then the way Liz
I
kind of
really do this.
danced down the hallway, like, I mean, you kind of have that feeling with her, because like you see her realizing she can be who she is, and I liked as well that like when she got back to, and when she ran into those guys, she was kind of like self-conscious and stuff, but she didn't back down. Like she stood up for herself.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, particularly with trans women or trans femme characters, they have them kind of shrink under the criticism of the kind of dominant male cohort. And I like the fact that like she had more power as her female self than she ever had as her kind of male persona. Like she felt and like, I mean, she was
absolutely,
she was like a force, and she was like, you are not going to like put me down or make me feel bad. This is like who I am. And so like that moment of self-realization is probably one of my favorite moments in television. I mean, Liz has a very special place in my heart. So like I actually kind of have like a mini essay about her, but We'll see how much we get
I will
to.
listen to talk about Liz all day long. I would be happy.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, like, I love Liz, and I love Dennis O'Hare. I mean, I'd seen him in American Horror Story before, and, he's a great actor. I mean, the entire cast is great, so, I mean, he's kind of in there with his peers, but I'd never really seen him in anything else, never really thought about him. And then Liz came along, and it was just like, I now love this man. I know nothing about him. He has a son, I know that. But he is just, like, an amazing and very special person to bring Liz to life the way he did.
Yeah.
And I know, like, there's a lot of stuff about, like, cis characters playing trans characters, and, like, there's the principles and there's the practicality, but there's absolutely no question that he has, like, a deep love for this character, like many of us do.
Oh, yeah.
Just even all of the little nuances he put in, like, her speech patterns and the clicking the nails and just everything, like, it's so... Anyway...
And there's almost no chance that most of that was on the page. Like, I really think that he just put so, whatever it was in himself or whatever, he really created her. Like, she was written as a cool character, but he is the reason why she's such a fucking force.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, like Pitney said, she never once comes across as a man in a dress or anything like that. Like,
no,
and the real, like, it is cool that, like, physically she hasn't really been feminized. Like, she wears very classy, elegant clothing, and, she's got the makeup and everything and the nails, but otherwise,
total goals. Total old lady goals for
me. Like, there's no hair, there are no breasts, no, like, hormones, anything, no physical alterations, and yet she is female. And that's just, it's really cool to see, because you never see trans characters like that. They're always some sort of, I don't know, sleepaway camp. That's what you get.
Yeah, and, and the other thing that I was struck by this, and again, it's the eras that it was made.
Yeah.
But again, it's hopeful, and it makes me happy. Nobody that walked into that hotel gave a flying fuck.
Oh, yeah, no one reacted, not one person reacted weird to her, except her fucking
look
coworkers.
At this, like this bald woman
towering over everyone,
giving me these fabulous cocktails. Nobody gave a shit at all.
Yeah. No one misgendered her. No one made any sort of, like, transphobic insult. Like, everybody just got, like, her transness was kind of a non-issue. Like, it was just, there's this trans character here. And also she didn't...
Which made it so much more powerful.
Yeah. And she didn't have the stereotypical, like, tragic backstory either. Like, she had an unfulfilled backstory. She was unhappy in her life before, but it wasn't this, like, kicked out of her house by her parents when she was 14 and had to become a prostitute and got beat up and became a drug addict and all of this other stuff and almost killed. And, finally, she's found a small bit of happiness and is still being abused and whatever. No, like, she kind of had a normal life, and it was just basically about her figuring out who she is in kind of like her mid to late 30s, which I think, a lot of people start really examining who they are and what their life is like around that point. So there's a lot to identify with. They're both, like, I think, from trans and from cis people, and that's probably why so many people are like, Liz is the best. I mean, like, I think we all kind of want a Liz in our lives. Like, I would love to have Liz as, like, my godmother, or,
Oh my god!
Oh god, yeah.
Or at least I would go to her bar every day.
Liz reminded me, personality-wise, not aesthetically, but Anna Madrigal in Tales from the City.
Oh god!
Did y'all ever?
No, I never saw that.
So long? Oh my god!
It was just like, it was set in the 70s. It was like this hippie / gay
because it's San Francisco.
San Francisco apartment complex that this woman named Anna Madrigal won, and she was like everybody's mother and everybody loved her, and it turned out that she was, a trans woman.
Right.
And that was such a positive representation of the time, and I don't think that had ever been done at that time.
Yeah, because
Liz
that was
reminds
a long
me
time
of
ago.
Anna Madrigal. But if y'all have never seen it, then that's sort of...
I did so long ago that I'm just like, well, when you explained, I'm like, okay, now I know who you're talking about, but the name didn't click. But yeah, and she definitely is kind of, her role is kind of, she's sort of, Liz is kind of parental in a way to almost
she's like
everyone in the
mother
hotel.
of the hotel, you know.
Because even though she couldn't be the father, quote, that she would have wanted to be to her kids when she was living there, once she became herself, she basically, all of her nurturing stuff came out. Like, you could tell when they showed her backstory that she's just, like, sitting on the couch like a lump and just the most sad, unsatisfied, I guess I'll go to work, I guess I'll, I guess I'll go eat dinner, and she really, once she became herself, like, all these aspects of her personality that had been suppressed because she was so miserable, just sort of, and she takes care of everyone, and even they were accepting of her, but she was accepting of all of those freaks too.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say, she's kind of like the only likable person in the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, she really
she's
is.
Purely
the main
person.
character, I thought, the lawyer, or the detective, I'm sorry. He was likable, even though he turned out to be,
a murderer.
Not
well,
a
everyone
murderer.
in there's you can't really have a problem with anyone in the show for murdering.
But I think Liz was the only likable character in the whole thing.
She's the one I want to hang out with.
Yeah,
I mean, Even the other ones on their best day are not as great as Liz.
No.
Oh, yeah, no. Anyway.
Can we talk a little bit about the fact that she gets a beautiful love story?
I
will let you guys fight over who wants to talk about that.
Well,
because
I think
that's one of my favorite things.
I think Pitney kind of called dibs on that, so I'll let him go for it first, and then.
I mean, I know that Pitney is jealous that Liz got Tristan and he didn't, but.
Oh yeah, because I'm sorry that I won't even call him a man because he's such a man child. But that boy Tristan is like really, really hot.
He's yummy.
But I thought it was interesting that basically just like an egotistical,
model,
junky,
right?
beautiful piece of shit was able to be turned into an actual decent human being. Because he found love with Liz.
Yeah. And God damn it, I did not expect it. I would have never thought that's where the two of them were going to end up together. But it's like, oh my God, it's perfect. Oh my God.
And I thought that was also, like what I said before, it's like, to me, Liz was like a beacon of hope and a character of hope in, like, a bigger picture. And I mean, in the real world, the likelihood of that love connection happening is next to nil, right?
It's certainly possible, but
it's possible that next to nil, but it's hopeful, and it's not hopeful in like a trollish sort of way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hopeful in like look at these two damaged people. This person becoming a whole person and this becoming a whole person and seeing each other as them whole people and falling in love.
Yeah.
And I don't think Liz's love made Tristan a whole person and then he gravitated that out of thankfulness or vice versa. I think Liz became whole and Tristan became whole because he had been fucked over.
Right.
And was like reevaluating his so stupid life and realized, oh my God, Liz really loves me.
Right.
And I love Liz.
Yeah.
And it was because they became fully actualized despite the utter incongruousness between them. I don't even know how to say it. You know what I'm implying there, right? Yeah. And they came together loving each other. And to me, that was a beautiful thing. And I think by the I mean, I don't know, but I would think by the writers it was done on purpose.
I think
like
so too.
It's so visually and realistically bizarre that those two people would come together and fall in love.
Yeah.
But because they had been so, Tristan had been so damaged and Liz had been going through this through this transformation emotionally.
Right.
And they both came to a place where they fully realized who they are, and they were like, oh my God, we really love each other. And these crazy differences that society would be like, what the fuck? Right. They don't matter because we love each other.
And I want to say one thing.
That's what I took from that.
Yeah, my absolute, well, there's so many things that could be my favorite, but the one thing that really stood out for me that I thought was a very important thing for them to put in it because it made it clear to the audience was that she wasn't like a fetish object for him. That he responded to her as a person, as a woman. It was, because there was a couple of points, at least once or twice, that he said, this is so weird because I'm not usually into guys. And she would just very calmly and quietly say, but that's because I'm a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was especially beautiful because ultimately you wouldn't want her to end up with someone who's like, I just really want a trans woman. You don't want her to end up with that guy.
Yeah.
And so to have him just being this beautiful dumb thing who would blurt out something like that, but it was so innocent and so sweet, and he loved her so fucking much, and it was so obvious that they were really, really in love, and that it wasn't this little freak show thing like so much of the rest of that show was. That they were like so genuine, as opposed to every other fucking couple.
And like I said, to me, it was like a message of possibility and hope.
Absolutely.
And
that she could find genuine love with a straight man because she was a woman, but without, quote, passing? I'll just use the word passing?
Yeah, or surgery, or hormones, or anything like that. And he was just... Because, like, she said at one point, like, she thanked him for seeing the girl in her. And I thought that was, that was kind of a really sweet way of phrasing it. And I think... I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines that he made her feel more like a woman as well. Like... he kind of reinforced how she felt about herself, and that was a very novel thing for her.
Because it was like I can tell you're not just being nice to me.
Yeah.
That it's you're accepting me fully as a woman, and not just you think I'm cool.
Yeah.
And you're hanging out with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I mean, like it's such a weird love story, but it is so perfect. And, like, I read an interview with Dennis O'Hara, and he was talking about it, particularly, like, the scene where Finn Wittrock, who plays Tristan, Tristan looks at Liz and says, do you love me? And, I mean, that's something that, like, the Countess says to, like, all of her various men, is tell me you love me. And Sally is the same way, is this constant need to be told that you matter. And so when Tristan says it, at first it seems kind of like a parodying of it. And O'Hara was talking about, they did several takes with that, and he was always like, I guess the American Horror Story creators and writers have always been kind of very queer, inclusive, and just kind of generally doing weird and innovative things with their stories. And apparently they let the actors just do a lot of their own instinctual stuff. And so, like, O'Hara was saying, you keep thinking about, like, what you're going to say in response to that question and how you're going to react and what your face is like. And he was like, and then there was this one take where it finally hit him that the Tristan needed somebody to love him. Like, he couldn't comprehend that somebody like Liz could love him, where, like, Liz was kind of in the same place, thinking she couldn't comprehend that somebody like Tristan could love her. And so, and instead of, like, actually saying something, he just kind of, like, responded non-verbally and like, appreciated Tristan for who he was. And then, Tristan was like, I think I'm in love with you. And it became a very, very sweet moment between the two of them, like, actually seeing each other. And yes, I think, like, that kind of dynamic, and the fact that both of the actors put that much of themselves into the performance, really, because like we didn't see their love story for very much. They had like a handful of like 2-3 minute scenes together, and then Tristan was dead.
Oh yeah, like definitely.
And
if they edited all that together, I think we'd have a total of 10 to 15 minutes.
Isn't it weird that we're talking about it now because it's such a meaningful thing?
Yeah.
Even though it was like 3 minutes of
But
visual.
every second of it was mwah.
Yeah, I mean, they conveyed so much in so little. And then, like, the final scene between two of them is just, I mean, I presume...
I can't even talk about it!
I am not into, like, romantic gestures and love stories and things like that, but the last scene...
I know, I'm very jaded about that kind of
Tristan
shit.
and Liz is, like, the most romantic thing ever, when he just kind of, like, shyly walks into the room, and she's like, I thought you hated me, and he's just like, you needed to live. And it's just like, oh... Yeah.
Oh.
But I think just in closing, I just want to say something about not to do with trans, but to do with Tristan, right? When I used to be really involved with the club scene, which, but we all were, right? But don't you remember, like, the people that, were so hot, and all the girls wanted to fuck, and all the boys wanted to fuck, and they were so cool and so hot? That was Tristan, right? Yeah. But they were messes. They were just as insecure.
Oh, God, yeah.
As poor little faggy skinny me.
Right.
They were just as insecure as everybody, and it didn't matter that they were like the hot person that everybody wanted to fuck and everybody wanted to know and blah, 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 blah. Because... nobody wanted to know them beyond the fact that
I got to fuck him.
They could get drugs and they wanted that dick or that pussy, depending on who it was, right? Which is terrible.
Yeah.
And to me, like, Tristan, being like the beautiful guy that everybody that saw wanted to fuck, because let's face it, yes, he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
No question.
But it was like, you got to see that insecurity too, and it was also a message that superficial bullshit doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, all this, like, model, fashion, Kardashian bullshit is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I took that, too, from that.
Right. And it's like, it's one thing for the three of us to watch it and appreciate it, but can you imagine being, like, a 15-year-old boy... in some small town somewhere, watching this series, just being like, ooh, I like horror movies, I'm gonna watch this show, having no idea what he's about to get into, and being able to see that, like, maybe, depending on where he is, the first time he's ever aware of seeing a trans person. It may be the first time he's ever seeing anything even remotely like that. And we can all go back to when we were that age, and did we have anything positive to look at? I mean, my God, it's astonishing.
We had Rocky Horror.
If I had met Liz, I was the era of Jerry Springer transvestites, so yeah.
Oh no.
My teenage years were kind of very depressing, but if I had met Liz at 15, my life would have been, and like, I don't have a tragic trans story. I have a very like positive, easy trans story, but if I had met Liz at that point, my life would be totally different. So like,
oh my God.
Yeah,
I would have started so much quicker. This was like boom. Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yay! Okay, hotel.
Okay.
Biggest character in the history of everything.
My name is Paige, and I'm the host of Reverie True Crime. Reverie means to daydream, but even daydreams can turn into nightmares. Join me as I tell you about horrific reveries on the Reverie True Crime Podcast, wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
Alrighty, now we have come to the enormous possessed elephant in the room. I'm sure everyone listening is wondering, why are you talking about Hereditary? Because there are no trans characters in Hereditary. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. When we were kicking around ideas for this episode and we were doing research and, to look for a good variety of characters to talk about, this article popped up, and once we read it, there was just no way that we weren't going to talk about Charlie in this show. And I'm absolutely, as always, linking the article in the show notes, because I'm sure at least a few of you are really going to want to read that article. It is a crazy article, but man, it really will blow your mind. So, once again, I hope everyone's seen it or doesn't care about spoilers, because I am about to spoil the entire movie. So, and again, really complicated, lots of shit going on. I am cramming it, condensing it down. So, you got this old grandma who is a high priestess of the cult of the ninth king of hell, some demon dude named Paimon, and she has been working for her whole life to try to create a perfect human vessel for him to return to Earth, and she tried several times to put him into a guy as he would prefer, but she ends up having to put him into her granddaughter, Charlie, who we meet when she's like at that preteen awkward stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then through a very, very seriously fucked up sequence of events, and like way, way more decapitations than I have ever seen in a movie, Paimon moves from Charlie kind of through a bunch of other shit, eventually into her brother Peter, and now he's Charlie, and hail Paimon! Complete with jazz hands, because I can't say it without jazz hands. So... and everyone's like, really? That's how you're going to summarize it? That's as good as I can do. Because I can't go on for an hour. So,
I just have to say, you may as well walk down the street and say, hail
Paimon! That's an in-joke. Anyway. Okay, so, let's jump into Hereditary.
Okay, yeah, because, I saw Hereditary before you shared the article with me, and I never, it didn't even dawn on me that there was anything sort of trans, and then I read the article, and I was like, actually, they make a lot of good points.
They really did.
And, yeah, it was kind of weird, because, there is not a lot of trans mask representation out there. So much so that it's a joke in my house that trans mask people have invisibility cloaks, and it's my superpower. That's why people don't social distance from me, is because I've, supercharged my invisibility powers, and they just don't know I'm there. Because, everybody else in the household gets socially distanced from me, they just walk into. Anyway, so yeah, trans men, trans mask people, we are able to just be invisible at will. Then this thing came up with Hereditary, and it's an interesting look at trans representation and trans issues in a few ways. Partly because of the kind of blink and you miss it subtext of the film. Literally, if you aren't looking for it, you probably won't see it. And I'm sure there are people listening to this being like, "What are they talking about?" Hereditary has.
They're still not. No, they still don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know my partner was like, "Why are you doing Hereditary? I don't understand how that." And I was like, "Just." It does, yeah.
Because reasons!
We have reasons! But yeah, so, it kind of mirrors the actual, the actual non-representation of trans mask characters in the media, which I also find interesting in addition to their portrayal of a trans mask character in a very weird way. I don't know, Hereditary is odd in a lot of ways. Sleepaway Camp is very much one thing, American Horror Story Hotel is very much another thing, and then there's Hereditary, which I also have questions about, but in a very different way than I have questions about Sleepaway Camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, and that's one of the things that's so funny is, I think the article even refers to that Charlie is the villain of the movie. And it's no, fuck you! Charlie's a victim like everybody else. But the idea that Charlie turned into Peter is that's not exactly.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
It's I get your point.
No, but I thought it was interesting that where Charlie is not, a trans character by any means, I felt like And I'm going to say that the actress portrayed this like this, and the designers did the hair and the makeup and stuff like this. Because if you look at the actress, she doesn't look mannish at all.
No.
But Charlie really looks mannish.
Yeah.
Or I should say boyish.
Yeah, boyish.
And I think that was a really good decision on their part to, you know, to bring that out with the themes of later. Like I said, I do not think it's like specifically a trans narrative, but it could definitely be.
It skates right on the edge of it, kind of.
Yeah, it could be translated as such, because they definitely designed Charlie as a 13-year-old girl to be very boyish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll touch on that a little bit later.
Because of what was going on.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was kind of weird, because to me, Charlie almost looked like a very young, long-haired Michael Myers from the first.
I can see it actually. Yeah, like.
Do you guys see it?
Oh no! Oh, I'm never gonna unsee that now.
Oh.
There's no connection. We cannot possibly make a connection, but I'm just saying.
But really, it's not so much. It's Charlie and not Millie Shapiro. It's Charlie that. Oh wow! Yeah. Oh my God! Again, probably not on purpose.
Yeah, Charlie, totally Michael Myers from the first Halloween.
Oh
or the first Rob Zombie Halloween, you know what I mean.
Right. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my God.
Oh.
Well, no, what I took out of the movie was, again, I know it was not written as this, but what I took out of it was a very scathing representation of the Abrahamic religion. And how they're so, you know,
wrong?
Male energy and male deity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people that don't listen to Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique, who don't know me, may not know that I'm like a very, very long-term practicing pagan in a very strict Wiccan sense, and a very strict duality, male and female balance sense. I'm not God, I'm not goddess, I'm very much in the middle, right? And it was really interesting to me of like, especially that they stressed when they, in the movie where, you know, she's going through that book in the attic or whatever, and then underlined is...
Oh, like her mother had highlighted all these passages for her?
Paimon is like a male demon and he needs a male body or whatever that the actual quote was.
Right.
I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because...
A real demon wouldn't care.
If a demon is like, you know, an entity... You know, like a god or whatever, or godette, whatever. Right. Why the fuck is that gonna matter? But then, when I was reading about this afterwards, you know, Paimon, I've noticed some online, there is some controversy. How is it really pronounced? Is it Paimon or is it Paimon?
Oh my God. Of course.
But what really cemented my view of this is, let's just say Paimon, because I don't know.
Works for me. Yep. I think that's how they said it, so I'll go with that.
There's a book, I don't remember the name of the book, it doesn't matter, because it's like one of the most definitive things on modern demonology, which to me says bullshit.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's the kind of book I like to have on my shelf.
Is that book, there is a long foreword on that book by Aleister Crowley.
There you go.
Okay,
Well,
there
that
we go.
means it's true.
And I am very studied in Aleister Crowley, because in figuring out my pagan path, I have, studied Crowley and blah, 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 wondering if that was something that I wanted to be involved in.
It's just, something you pass through as you're finding your way, yeah.
But basically, he is just a misogynist, pig, Catholic.
A little bit.
He was perverted Catholicism.
Yep.
Into his weird ways. But that is very, very male-oriented. So, of course, all demons are male.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only ones I can think of that aren't anything that would be called a demon, like, you have to go into Hinduism to find strong, like, female demons. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
well,
because that doesn't exist in the Abrahamic.
There is Lilith, and there's Mazadine, Lilith's daughter, basically. Lilith's daughter with Lucifer. But, yeah, there aren't very many of them.
Yeah, and it's very strange, so that's when I was like, well, of course Paimon is a male that's going to demand a male body, because heaven forbid.
Right.
Yes.
He can't fully live his life without his male body,
Of course not.
But, like, my take on that is spiritual, superficial entities, whether they be entities or energies or however you want to say it.
Right.
Gods, goddesses, demons.
Spirits.
Succubus. Incubus, whatever, their energy, and they're inherently gender neutral.
Right.
Yeah.
To my way of thinking. So I thought it was really weird that it was like this supernatural, powerful entity, Paimon or Paimon, whatever.
Paimon sounds so mocking.
Is male and must need a male body, because that just does not make sense.
Yeah, and he is treated as though he's super, super powerful, and it's like, if he's so powerful, how come he needs this old grandma to do his bidding for him? It's like, he can't just come in and take someone over.
Yeah, in a spiritual sort of way, that didn't make sense.
But that's always the thing that they do with demons. They're like, oh, they're so powerful, they're so evil, they'll corrupt you and they'll tempt you, but they can't, like, manifest themselves wherever they want. Angels can just pop in and out whenever, but like these
right.
these super powerful demons who could like destroy the world and steal your soul and do all of these like horrible things that angels can't compete against are like have to be summoned, or they can't actually do anything. It's like what is that?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. How powerful are they if they can't just show up when they want to? But yeah.
But boy, isn't that just the imagined power of the male? Isn't
that is actually
and I think
we're gonna call it power, but it ain't really.
I was reading about the director. I don't think the director meant that. I think the director was going directly off the lore of
100%.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Paimon.
And I loved that he went and found one. When he's writing the story, that he went and found like an actual thing that we could look up and read about.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, that's a real demon.
But I think it could be an interesting metaphor, as in the sense of like, well, I'm male, so I can't possibly manifest in a female body. I'm gonna kill this female to become male.
Yeah.
She sure as fuck needs to die, because she is not acceptable.
Because, there is numerous articles online about a trans perspective of this movie. And I'm wondering if maybe, is that where it came from? Because, that sounds angry and horrible the way I just worded it, but I think that's the essence of it is. But really, so if you're like a trans person and you're born into a body that's not your soul, right? Your Paimon going into a body, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Don't you want to symbolically kill that body to become, so it can physically manifest in this lifetime who you really are, because you have to live in this life like that?
Right.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen things leaning towards, the girl has to die so the boy can live kind of idea.
And that's
it's extreme, but
that's what I took from that movie in this context. Right. But me not being experienced with the the emotions of a trans person. I'm going to give it to you, Lex, and I hope I didn't offend you by saying anything like that, because I didn't mean it to be offensive. I was just trying to like put this into that context, and that's what I came up with.
Yeah, well, like the idea of kind of killing the previous gendered self comes up a lot in trans communities, either like trans people saying it themselves or other people, typically parents like to say, oh, you killed my son or daughter, a lot. I don't understand why, but it also can be kind of like a very empowering thing for trans people to say, of like, you know, I killed this identity. I mean, even the fact that like it's common to say dead name for like the previous gender's name. Right. So there is this idea that like that identity is dead. And I think that kind of comes from having to reiterate or like reinforce to the people in your life that I am not that person anymore. Like that person is dead. Right. And so like it has these two edges to it, of like, you know, depending on which side it's coming from, it can be a very positive thing or it can be a very negative thing, and it just sort of, I guess it's like most things, it depends on like the context in which it's being used. You know, like some people find using the word bitch or slut as very empowering, very affirmative. Some people still think it's very insulting and derogatory. I think the same can be said with like fag. You know, there are gay people who are like, you know, it's my word, I'm reappropriating it, and then there are people who are like, do not use it at all in any context around me.
No one should ever be allowed.
And or like tranny, or, you know, various other things like that. Like, you know, some people, they're okay with it. I mean, I know I use queer a lot, and there are still people out there who are like, no, do not say that, but like that's the word I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, I didn't find anything offensive about what you were saying, but I can see that sort of thing. Like I was reading reviews about it, and they were talking about how the film demonizes trans people, and I kind of took a different stance of, I mean, I tend
like literally demonize.
Yeah, like literally demonize.
I don't see that at all, but okay.
And I was kind of like, I was thinking about
if you're gonna call Charlie the villain,
yeah, I mean, like if Charlie's gonna be the villain, but like, so I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, technically, sure, if you want to look at the surface story and the entity seeking a body is a demon, but like if Payman weren't a demon, if Payman were just like a teenager who identified as male but had a female body and wanted to like, I couldn't come up with the right word. I kept wanting to say like correct or adjust or whatever, but that's not actually what happens. But you know, had an issue with.
Although correct is a word that they use in the movie.
It is.
Yeah, they corrected your first body.
That is true.
Oh, yeah. You're
basically,
right,
like he wanted his external appearance to match his internal appearance, and he did. And then the people who loved him celebrated the fact that he had the body he wanted. It's actually a very positive trans story, just about a demon. If you look at
it that way, absolutely.
So, yeah.
The fact that he's an asshole is irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so he murdered a couple people, but like, you know, demons have gender identities that need to be validated.
Yeah.
But do they? You know.
They're literally throwing him a party.
The other thing that I
they
found
may or may
interesting,
not.
though, is like, you know, Charlie was such an unhappy, angsty character.
Well,
yeah. And if you look at her physically with the way that they did her makeup and stuff, like I said before, she looks very boyish, right? And that could have been maybe that her destiny was supposed to have become the embodiment of this energy that was, for the sake of the movie, inherently male, right? And I thought that was an interesting thing that could be translated to the angst of like a, you know, a trans person or a queer person, in the sense that having something invade your body is like a possession is scary and horrible in one thing, but that's just your body. But have something invade your soul and be like, fucker, this is not what you are. That's totally different. Like, if she was born to be the vessel of this male entity, there was something in her soul that was male, right? Or if, you are a man or a woman or a gay guy or a lesbian and you're born into this thing and your soul is this, but your body and all your outside is saying this, to have that spirit come in and to change that is much more angsty and much more fucked up, in my opinion, than merely having your body possessed. And I don't mean that flippantly.
Yeah, it's definitely like if you compare it. Like if you compare it, let's say to like other like exorcism type movies where other possessions are, it's like, okay, that's still Reagan tied to her bed or whatever, and every once in a while she starts talking funny. It's like it's in there with
like
her, but she's still there.
Was never like, Reagan, this is who you are now.
Yeah, this is you now for the rest of your life. Yeah,
thing.
I'm just using your body for a while. And that's why an exorcism can happen, because I'm just borrowing your body for a minute so I can talk to these people.
The question I had is that, like, did Charlie ever actually exist? Like at what point did Payman enter Charlie's body? Like, I mean, presumably at some point there was, like, a little Charlie soul in there.
Right.
But how long did that last? Is it still in there?
I know that there was indications that maybe the grandmother breastfed her, possibly. Yeah, like, there was some weird hints like that were never 100% clear.
Yeah, because like there
was also, and she fed Annie herbs
in the little like miniature thing.
Yeah, those creepy miniatures.
Oh, awkwardness, so and her weird like totally was not in herself.
Oh, she didn't have a chance. Yeah. That kid.
No, she didn't. She was like from the beginning.
Oh,
like,
you are never thought about that. You are so right.
Annie was totally. They also referred to Annie being fed some kind of herbs or some kind of drink she had to drink, for the baby, and it was all like related to. Whereas when she had her son, it was, my mother is not allowed anywhere near our house, and so Peter grew up without the influence of his grandmother.
Yeah.
But Charlie, she was right there the whole time.
And then there was, like, because there was a thing with Annie's brother as well, who killed himself at 16 because their mother put people inside him.
Put people in me, oh, God. Oh, I love it so much.
And, I mean, they don't talk about, like, why the dad died, but, like, that's kind of suspicious as well. Like, was she trying to, like, put Payman into her husband, too? Like, is she just going until she finds one that, like, it sticks? I mean...
There were some references to her, like being the bride of him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was a
picture of her, like, in a bridal outfit. And maybe, ideally, if she could find a grown man and turn him into Payman, that'd be ultimate. But she couldn't do that, so
maybe it was
okay,
like,
I'm gonna have a kid and try that.
I can't remember what it was, but it was some sci-fi thing. But the idea that you couldn't change an adult, you had to get them as a child. So maybe like it was this trial and error thing of like putting Payman into different entities. Then she was like, oh no, we have to start with like at the very beginning, we need a baby, or
to get it to really take.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah,
that's true. Well,
weird.
And also, it does make sense. It wouldn't work the first
time.
time.
It was very weird.
I was gonna say, if Paimon needed to take a bride, the final body that Paimon was in, I'll be the bride for him.
Oh. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm so inappropriately in love with Alex Wolff. I'm so in love with him. He's kind of my new Harry Potter. He's kind of... Oh my God, yes. Oh my God. I do want to kind of derail things for a second, because as the chick in the room, I do kind of want to talk about, Pitney kept bringing up the thing about Charlie's portrayal of like that kind of awkward, boyish thing. And there's something, the article mentioned it, which sort of sent me down a whole path of thinking about it. And there is something, just in terms of the way the movie was written, having Charlie be at that age, where that just maybe starting into puberty kind of thing, that's the perfect age for this character to be when we meet her. Because as the audience, you can tell by the trailer and the poster, okay, there's something with this kid. But you don't really know anything when you're first watching the movie, but everything about her seems very natural and familiar of a kid of her age. And speaking as someone who went not quite to the, I mean, obviously not quite to the extent that Charlie did, but there's something about, there was one moment where right after the grandma's funeral, and Charlie's in her bed, and her mom comes in to try to comfort her, and she says, she wanted me to be a boy. And that is a very clear statement, but the mom, as moms do, is all she wants to do is try to convince her kid, you're not weird, you're perfectly normal, you're fine. You know, and so when she hears she wanted me to be a boy, she goes into this whole thing about, well, you know, I was a tomboy at your age, and I didn't like to wear dresses, and I didn't like pink, and look how great I am. I mean, you know, it was kind of that kind of a thing, which is a very common discussion. That's probably a very common mother-daughter discussion. You know, and Charlie, her reaction to it, she takes absolutely no comfort in it, because that wasn't what she was talking about at all. And she almost gets, like, because she goes, like, who's going to take care of me? Like, she gets, like, she retreats farther. Her mother's trying so fucking hard. And she's just like, no, you really don't listen to me. And you don't know who I am. And there's something, the genius of having, I mean, Millie Shapiro, just astonishing. And she just totally blew me away. Like, especially once I saw interviews with her and saw how she really is. And it was just like, wow. Because, I mean, I guess I've always felt bad when a movie is cast and it's like, we need to find a girl that looks like this. Or like that Welcome to the Dollhouse movie where it's like, where can we find a really homely girl? Like, you know, that's a very tricky
We need to find a girl that looks just like Michael Myers when he was young.
Right? It's like, have I got the kid for you? But there is something, like, when you meet Charlie, obviously you can tell there's something she seems normal for a girl of that age, for a lot of girls, but with just something slightly off about her. And there's something, but you, because she seems so familiar as just the awkward kid. And one thing that I can speak to as the chick, okay, I was 11 when puberty hit me hard, and that is way too fucking young, I'll just say that. But there is something about, like, one day you're a kid, and the next day, it's like your body is betraying you. And it's not, I don't think I'm a girl, but I don't fucking want to be a woman. Because all of a sudden, you become aware of grown men leering at you, and you're fucking 11. And all of a sudden, like, the world, everyone treats you differently, and everything's weird. And a big part of puberty for a little girl is, okay, your body's we're going to put strategic lumps of fat in various places on your body. And all of a sudden, you're all lumpy and bumpy, and you're fucking bleeding, and you hate yourself. And all you want to do is just be invisible. And I look at Charlie in her giant hoodie, and goddammit, if there had been big oversized hoodies at that age, you would have never gotten me out of them. I would have totally been Charlie. And in some ways I kind of was. Not super tomboyish, but just, I am so not into what is happening to me right now. And so there is something about having her character, I mean, if she had been this at 16, it wouldn't have felt right. You would have known the second you saw her.
Oh, yeah, it would have. Well,
something else going on with this kid.
Like a bush lesbian. Which would not have worked.
Right, and that actually is something that I think is really common, and I think it might be maybe more with when you're talking about a girl-bodied character as opposed to a boy-bodied character, where it's kind of a normal thing for girls to be boyish. Like, society is totally cool with, every girl goes through a tomboy phase. Every girl. And feminism, it's like, well, aren't you all just trying to be men? And that kind of shit, where there's this underlying, moving towards maleness is natural because maleness is superior and maleness is is where that's what everyone's goal should be.
Oh, please.
So you don't see it the same way in reverse. And I think it's because of the weird societal expectation towards masculine equals better. So, and that's just a guess. That's why characters tend to, and that may be why you don't really see like a trans masc character that often, because it's like, well, it's easier to just write her as being really dykey. It's easier, it's easier. Or the audience will get it more if I just make her dress like this. But I don't know if I don't know if they'll go all the way with me. I'm probably overthinking.
Well, I don't know. Like, I was kind of gonna go into that a bit in talking about like kind of carrying on, like trans masc representation. But like just to go back to like when you talk about, you mentioned her saying that her grandmother wanted her to be a boy. She makes a few references like that, and it's always interpreted as something else. Like or changed into not really what it said, and kind of Charlie's autonomy in general is left very up in the air. And her identity is based solely on what other people say about her. Like, after her kind of very dramatic death, the big conflict between Peter and Annie is that Annie wanted Charlie to do one thing, Peter wanted Charlie to do another, but neither one of them asked what Charlie wanted to do. And
100%.
As a result, Charlie ended up dead. And it's kind of which one of them is more to blame? Annie for forcing Peter and Charlie to go together, or Charlie for being a teenager, getting high, and, accidentally beheading his sister and not telling his parents when he got home, hey, my sister's dead body's in the car, just be forewarned when you go to the store in the morning.
But that's a whole different issue. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I don't know. There was a part of me that was like, I could totally see being so fucking stunned that you really don't know what to do.
I guess, I couldn't.
Yeah. Like he's probably like 16. And he is like high as fuck. I could.
True.
I could remember being like,
That's true.
I could see myself getting home and just kind of sitting in the car for a really long time, and maybe being there in the morning when they come down, or just kind of like not. Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, what
his
the hell is
inability
that?
to look over his shoulder and see what was going on in the back seat. Yeah. He never changed his.
No, he was just like, okay, like you could see in his face, is like, okay, I have to get like I can't just stay here, because he was out in the middle of nowhere, and then there's like, but where do I go? What do I do?
And like, there somewhere.
It's entirely fucked up situation. The second time through, I was like, actually, I can understand why he made that decision. The first time was just like, that is so messed up.
Right.
But yeah.
But you also go into the family, the movie thinking, okay, this family is fucked.
Yeah.
Like, you just know, they just don't know how to act, they don't know how to talk to each other, they don't know how to act around each other, so you're not really surprised when a character does something fucking insane. But at the same time, it's like, oh my god, I feel so terrible for these people, this poor family.
Well, and like, by the time you get to, like, Peter going home, you have, because, like, the decapitation comes out of frickin' nowhere. It's just like you're going along, Charlie's having like, an allergic reaction, and the next thing you know, her head is flying off. And by the time you've processed that, Mom has gone down and discovered her daughter headless in the car, and you're like, oh, okay, this is I'm caught up now, this is what we're doing. They are just, it's a weird family. I mean, the grief support group where Annie just kind of spills out her family history, and you're just like, oh my god, if I was sitting in that group, I would kind of be sitting, I would not believe that she was saying that. I'd be like, okay, somebody's trying to get attention now, but like,
exactly, someone wants to go to the head of the class.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. So, like, I found that kind of an interesting thing, that, like, everybody was sort of pushing Charlie in different directions, and nobody ever, including the audience, asked what Charlie wanted, or who Charlie was.
Right.
And, like, the bit where Charlie is saying, like, kind of very sort of vulnerably says, who's going to take care of me? I found kind of, like, it was a bit heartbreaking, because it was, like, at that moment that I was
really
like, is there a Charlie, or is this just Paimon abandoned in a world that he doesn't quite understand, and the one person who is sort of saying, this is the plan for you, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to help you, is just gone, and nobody knows who you are now. Like, you're just stuck there.
Oh my god, you're literally blowing my mind right now. Because I thought if it was Paimon that he was being really manipulative, maybe. But no, I think you're right. I think it's, oh shit, my whole plan is fucked because she's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the lady who made me is dead.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
fuck.
what happened
Poor
to
Paimon.
actual Charlie? Because her spirit has to be in there somewhere. That
Unless
never
he
got
killed her
to,
already.
You know.
Yeah, unless by the time she was born, it was fully him,
that's
because it could have
true.
happened.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
Because the grandma was living with them
But if
at
he
that
was a
point.
truly supernatural being, that would not have mattered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Outside of an Abrahamic Crowleyan universe.
That's right. She could have been possessed by someone way more benevolent
Yeah.
and way cooler.
You know?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I fucking love this movie so much. This is a good example of a movie that I had this impulse to watch it just over and over and over again, but it freaked me the fuck out so much the first time that I just was like obsessively watching YouTube videos of other people talking about it and thinking about it all the time, but I could not make myself sit through it again because there's certain things in it. Like, I mean, even just Annie bashing her head on the attic door, I can't even think about it without being completely freaked out. This movie's so fucking
That
good.
freaks me out. Yeah, that freaks me out.
I've seen some crazy shit in a lot of horror movies, but this movie really freaked me out in a lot of ways.
This is one of the few movies that, like, I had to sit through it and be like, okay, you know this is coming up right now. We just need to, like, prepare ourselves, because this...
Start breathing.
Yeah, like, don't be surprised. Like, this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, and you're gonna freak out about it, but you need to not. Just chill and breathe.
Right. It's like, you're about to see Charlie's head covered in ants. 3, 2, 1. Just deal with it. Okay.
Yeah.
But the first time you see it, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ!
I thought that was fabulous.
I mean, as someone who is totally obsessed with effects and makeup and, practical effects and shit, I mean, god damn it, this movie is beautiful!
Yeah.
It's beautiful! But god, they went with some good realism and some serious grossness. I mean, her head on the mannequin at the end with the crown on it was like, oh god, that head has been sitting there for a really long time now. That poor head.
I think I
It's
wondered
been
is
through
like,
so much.
who went back and got the head, and at what point did they go and get the head? Because, like...
I'm gonna guess, Ann Dowd, whatever her character's name was.
She got the head.
God, I love her.
So, like...
I'm gonna guess it's her. She
what
seems
would
to be
you
kind
do
of
in that
charge now.
situation? Like, would the police... Like, if you called the police, how do you even explain that? My daughter's headless body is in the car, and I don't know how it got there, first of all.
Right.
And we don't know where her head is.
And then, like, evidently it's...
Maybe a coyote
Yeah,
took it. We don't know.
At some point, they figured out that the son was driving, and it's like, how does he explain that story? Like, what did, like... Because the cops are going to be standing there, being like, and your solution is to just go upstairs and go to bed when your sister's dead in the car. And it's like, does he say her head's out somewhere on this stretch of road, and do they send police out to get it, or are they just like, we'll leave her head out there? Something.
I'm not
like,
sure exactly where it was. It's somewhere along
I mean, do they even make an
my
attempt
God.
to recover the head, or they just be like, the head's gone. Sorry, you're gonna have to have a closed casket. Like,
And
I
did someone
don't know.
did they put it in their freezer? Did they just
Well,
put
I
it
mean,
in a
they got
bowling
the
bag?
head, so I guess they could have reattached it and put a little makeup,
Yeah, I mean, hey, morticians can do some amazing things, like...
Anyway.
Oh, sure. Oh my god. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy our show, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher.
If you send us a screenshot of your review, we'll send you a Bitchin' Boutique sticker.
Everyone loves stickers. Please subscribe or add us to your favorites wherever you get your podcasts.
Subscribers get new episodes first and are also more attractive.
Drop us a line anytime at pitneyandAmelia@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Let me see where I want to start. I have all these bullet notes, and let me see. Okay, so
I think I found my Easter egg for the
I'm
end
sorry.
of the
Yeah,
episode.
edit that out. I'm sorry, y'all.
We're all doing that. It's fine. We've never had to be so organized in an episode.